Alright people, what is going on? My name is Renegade Operative and welcome to my review of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Released, the Snyder Cut has finally been bestowed upon the masses and now we have it in full force and we're going to review this hot dog. So once again, I want to warn every single person out there, because I'm doing this off the cuff, there might be some slip-ups, some spoilers, some massive spoilers. If you go into this video expecting non-spoilers, I'm afraid you're going to be severely disappointed. I will try my best to keep everything reserved and conscious, but once again off the cuff, so I might make some fuck ups. Here we go. We need to explain a general gist of how the Snyder Cut originated. This movie is basically the original vision, the original dream child that Zack Snyder wanted to produce and create. It was a two-part Justice League movie that he wanted to interconnect all of the events culminating at that point, and once again think about the larger picture in the DC extended universe. Unfortunately, due to some real life circumstances and the unfortunate passing of his daughter Autumn, Zack Snyder was reasonably not in the proper headspace to finish Justice League. Therefore, WB in all their infinite wisdom, they decided they didn't want to sit on their hands with this unproduced movie, so they decided they wanted to get Joss Whedon and make some cuts and make some significant changes, and therefore we got Justice League in 2017 that was panned by fans and critics alike for being way too hokey, for having some generally terrible CGI, and for being way too derivative of the original vision of Zack Snyder. Therefore, it didn't really add anything to the DC extended universe. After watching the Whedon cut, the best way I can describe it is that this movie tried to go out with a bang, but instead it went out with a whimper. Now we are faced with the arduous task of summarizing my thoughts on this 4-hour long epic journey, and the best way I can do that is by summarizing the story, and the story pretty much isn't radically different from Justice League 2017 when you really break it down and generalize. Basically, the general gist is that Batman is trying to amass a team after having all these weird and crazy visions of the Flash coming back from BVS and warning him about certain situations. Therefore, Batman decides to recruit Wonder Woman, Aquaman, the Flash, and Cyborg in order to stop the big bad Steppenwolf. You'll see that other factions have been protecting the Mother Box for years, and then they finally start to erupt, and that's when it alerts the presence of Steppenwolf, and therefore he's on this journey to collect them and then bring the end of life once they are all united and wipe out every singular sentient being on the face of the planet. And that's your general gist for the plot. It's really basic. However, what Snyder Cut tends to do here is that they add more backstory, they add more of a presence with the villains, they add more of an extended lore, and I really appreciated that. It really felt like a full-scale war when you really compare both movies, and you see there's a bigger urgency of these Mother Boxes opening, and you see that everyone is trying to make a big effort to stop this entire civilization from being destroyed. It really brings a lot of weight to the overall plot, and that's one thing that I really appreciated, is that they add massive backstories for everything in this 4-hour epic. Granted, all of it really doesn't work, and we're gonna shift over a little bit into the negatives. And one thing I really did not like is that they left Aquaman on the cutting room floor. I felt like he was a bit underdeveloped in this movie, and it really comes with the territory. Like, he's there just to get the big villain kill and that's it. You really don't see much of his extended scenes really mattering. Like, he talks to the people under the water, he talks to Mira and all that stuff, but it really doesn't feel fleshed out compared to what they did with the Flash and Cyborg. I really appreciated those characters a lot more in this movie. Of course, in the last movie, you could tell the Flash was played for jokes. That's all he was. He was a goddamn fiddle, and Cyborg was just underdeveloped as fuck. Like, Like, there was barely anything I remember about Cyborg in the Whedon cut compared to this, where they tried to give Victor Stone a presence. They tried to humanize him more, especially that scene where he tries to help the lady with the well, he actually is successful, by the way. He helps the lady with the ATM and he gives her like $1 million. Common courtesy right there. And they give more scenes with him and his father, and it's especially painful when his father dies compared to the Whedon cut where he just gets captured, and therefore that's the end of his character until the entire movie wraps and you see him at the end and everything's hunky-dory. The same sort of scenes also apply to Steppenwolf as well, because as you can see in this particular cut, he doesn't just come from a portal, find the mother boxes at random, and then shifts off. There's more of a fight, there's more of a presence there. There's also obviously the stuff with Darkseid and those two doing a tag team collaboration, trying to figure out how things will work on getting the mother boxes. You see a lot more meticulous nature with Steppenwolf finding out how to get the mother boxes, how to attack, how to plan his actions from there, and I really also appreciated that as well. Also, they upgraded his look, so he's not just tiny anymore. He's not just a vanilla midget. He actually has armor. He looks like a fucking big ass Gears of War character that's actually intimidating, all muscled up and everything like that. So there is significant changes to characters and significant backstories added. I just don't like that there were certain exclusions where Aquaman was obviously an afterthought still in this cut, and I really didn't like that at all. One thing I also did not like is the 4:3 aspect ratio and the dull colors. Look, I don't know what Zack Snyder was going for with this pretentious nature of trying to have the movie sort of downscaled in color and also have the 4:3 letterboxing. However, it does not look as good as the Whedon cut in that department. There was more colors, more vibrancy, I feel, in certain costumes. Like Wonder Woman's costume is muted compared to the Whedon cut, and I felt the same about other costumes as well. I will admit the movie still looks gorgeous nonetheless, but you will see that translate over, and obviously 16:9 was a much better aspect ratio, and I don't know why they decided to do just this. I feel like if they wanted to do something cool, maybe they could have looked at the production stills and say, hey, if we want to get all artsy fartsy, let's just do the black and white cut first and then we go from there, because obviously that's what we've been doing with the screenshots and showing them to fans, right? So obviously I don't think the 4:3 worked at all for me. If it worked for you, more power to you, kudos. For me, I think that it could have been a better looking movie and a better aspect ratio overall. Let's go back into the positives yet again. One thing I really liked is the overall ties to the DC extended universe. You have scenes where it's like, oh shit, here's Darkseid, oh shit, here's Martian Manhunter actually here in person. Now I know there was some production issues and they could not get Green Lantern. There was a lantern in this movie, and it was kind of cool from the old comic stills that you actually had Darkseid trying to grab a lantern ring. I thought that was awesome. That was so fantastic. I was like, just get the ring already and show your power, but where my power, bitch? That would have been amazing, but you know, we always don't get what we want. Maybe if they do a Zack Snyder's Justice League 2, you know, then we can get something like that. However, that being said, I really did like when they actually executed and they brought more to the table that tied to the overall mythos. Like I said, Martian Manhunter, like I said, Darkseid, more of the lantern ring going on, especially like stuff like the ending as well, where you saw Nightmare and the actual consequence of what would happen if Batman actually didn't do something and the timeline was altered for the worse. And they were setting up that whole multiverse thing where you saw like an alternate version of Joker and everything, and he was taunting Batman saying, yes, I actually killed Dick Grayson, what are you gonna do about it? Then you had cool like new scenes where the Flash actually decided to change time, because At the end of this movie, what I really enjoyed is that everyone actually did fucking die. Like, they were all deceased. Like, the stakes were amplified a little bit more compared to the Whedon cut. And you see Flash using his power, using his ability, using the Speed Force to go back in time and try to save all of his comrades and try to save Cyborg so he could finally charge up the Mother Box. And that was also very particularly fantastic to see that whole scene of you seeing like stones formulating around the Flash's feet, and they sort of got rid of some of the janky runs that he did where he looked like a PS1 character, but obviously some of them are still in the movie. It still looked a little bit better in post in this one in comparison to the Whedon cut. I feel like this is the one movie that got interconnectivity right, because I didn't like Batman v Superman at all. I thought Man of Steel was okay. I like Wonder Woman, but I did not like Zeus at the end. I felt like after a while, especially with BVS, you really start to feel when DC really tried to ape the MCU and they tried to rush everything from there. Instead of building more and more on individual characters, they wanted these team-ups to happen really quickly. And I feel like this is the movie that ties it all in a bow, and it did what the other movies failed to do. I feel like if Warner Brothers would have stuck on this path of building up these individual movies and having this interconnectivity while also doing Elseworld content, then their film universe would be almost immaculate if they went that direction. At this point in time, we spent a good bulk talking about the fan service and extended scenes and talking about the connective tissue that this movie tried to leave behind, which I think it did successfully. However, there are certain nitpicks involving what they left behind in the Whedon cut. One thing I really enjoyed that they cut out of this movie is the argument that Batman has with the idea of bringing Superman back to life with Wonder Woman. They sort of argue about it, saying that, well, we don't know if this is a good idea, maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. And it's little scenes like that that makes me question why it was removed. Little liberties that Joss took that was still good in that movie that they sort of took out in Snyder Cut. I don't believe that taking that scene out really worked, so to speak. It really took away some of the emotional tension going on with Batman and Wonder Woman. Actually, they had a little bit of a fight scene. I know it's kind of ridiculous seeing Wonder Woman push Batman like that, but still, I kind of wish that was still, you know, present in the movie in some way or reshot in some way, because, you know, the team always not getting along, that adds a bit more depth to the characters. One thing I also did not like is the removal of the "do you bleed" line from Superman, because I mean that was also a connective moment in the Whedon cut where it sort of referenced what Batman said to Superman in BVS, and Superman using that line on Batman to sort of gain a trump card. That was also pretty intelligent. I really did like that. It's some small Joss things that they took out that really is questionable when they took it out of the Snyder cut. For all the hokey jokes and everything and Flash on top of Wonder Woman, of course I agree. Those scenes were fucking ridiculous and they deserve to be removed and all that stuff. I do agree on that part, but just the small character moments of interaction that was questionably cut to make, you know, the scene more significant, or to remove Superman's chin or shit like that, where it actually added a little bit of, I want to say, characterization to the mix. Yeah, definitely that. I still feel like that was pretty cool. Obviously, this movie is long enough as is, and I want to talk about a second negative, which is, well, it's not really a super negative, it's like 50-50. The length of the movie. How did I feel about it? This movie is 4 hours. There are some scenes that could have been trimmed down. Overall, this movie's not boring. That's where the 50-50 comes in, because I don't think this movie was boring at all to watch throughout the entire length. I think it engages you, it entices you, it's something you want to see from beginning to end, and that's really good for a movie of this length. However, I would not recommend them doing this in the future yet again. I feel like it would have been perfect if they cut it into two parts. One part that sets up all the drama, the second part sort of finishes the movie from there, and I think that would be something fantastic. People say two-part movies don't work. Motherfucker, have you heard of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows? That worked just fine. There's also a few criticisms that annoyed me with certain scenes in Snyder Cut, and if you watch this movie, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. There are scenes where you see Batman intro himself and sort of climb the Alps and everything, and then he goes to find Aquaman, and then after he finds him, talks to him and everything, there's this scene where a couple of women are singing, and I'm like, it really didn't add anything to the equation or the scene. It's like, why the fuck are you singing randomly just because Aquaman is slowly walking down the path to the sea to get away from Batman? What is the point of this? Why? And then you will question some of the pretentious nature that happens in the story with some of the fight scenes as well, and some of the scenes that have like very slow operatic moments where you hear like some Valkyrie singing at the top of her fucking lungs when someone is fighting underwater or someone is fighting in general. I only really enjoyed this stuff when Wonder Woman's theme was playing. However, it happening like 6 or 7 or 8 times, slowing down the fight choreography, I did not like that at all. I think my favorite fight though is the end fight still, even though it does have slow-mo, and I really enjoyed the one where Wonder Woman has extended scenes of throwing thugs all against the wall. It was fucking fantastic. I love that part, but the operatic slow-mo, ladies singing, slow walking, meticulous music being peppered in was not meticulous at all. It was very pretentious, and I just did not like that aspect of the movie. I'm sorry. I feel like they should have had the regular, you know, standard fight music without it being in slow motion in the first place, so the action could flow better, so you could see it better, especially if it wasn't 4:3. I think that makes good fight sequences. I think that makes good sudden reactions when bad shit is going down and you don't see it in slow-mo every 5 seconds. Some of that worked, some of that really didn't. Let's tie back into the fight scenes as a positive because I really did enjoy them. I like that they were extended. I like that they had moments of gore, people getting ripped apart, Amazonians getting slaughtered, Atlanteans getting slaughtered. Batman had a gun at the end of the fucking movie, and then he turned into an aimbot shooting the people in the head and shit like that, constantly just blowing them away. I thought that was really cool. A nice little, it kind of reminded me a little bit of Thomas Wayne Flashpoint Batman, just a little bit. I thought that was very stellar with what they did with that. It just seemed like they kept the core of some of the fight sequences, but they were better executed, less cuts of what was actually going on. Gorier battles, bloodier executions, Steppenwolf getting his head cut off by Wonder Woman, it really justified the R rating. I should also say Batman was not blowing away people in this movie, even though he already did that in Batman v Superman when he killed various criminals. I'm sorry about that. He was killing the parademons with the laser guns that they had at the end of the movie, so they added like a few key scenes there as well. I guess I want to talk about Superman really quickly because while Cyborg and the Flash, they definitely benefited from the extended lore, Superman was quite alright. They made decent accommodations to his character. While I'm quite bummed out that they removed the "do you bleed" line, I did like the fact that when he was revived, he was absolutely still crazy, and the only way he could listen to reason was Lois Lane. It wasn't just people talking him down and shit like that. It really did feel like Zack Snyder was paying attention to the details with these two characters being so close and formulating this bond, and she was the only one to bring a little bit more humanity to him, and obviously humility as he tries to find out who he is later on in the bar scene, and that continues from there because that does happen in the original cut as well. Superman later on is a boss. I really enjoyed that he came back in the black suit. Later in the story, he comes back as usual. The fucking axe just comes down on his shoulder from Steppenwolf, and then he gives Steppenwolf the business. Still an awesome moment, even more amplified in the Snyder Cut, which is just beautiful. Chef's kiss is just beautiful stuff going on here. I guess the only thing I didn't like is that they have to carry on the same sort of plot thread. The stupid ass nature of Zod's ship having this magical elixir water, and therefore they dig up Superman, they put him in the water, and then Flash has to do a supercharge and touch one of the mother boxes to bring Superman back to life. I kind of wish maybe they would have altered things just a little bit. Maybe like Batman could exclaim something like, "Hey, I know a guy. His name is Ra's al Ghul, and this is the Lazarus Pit. We're gonna bring back Superman." And him coming back crazy would make sense, because that's what the Lazarus Pit does. Each time someone takes a soak in it after being killed or grievously injured, they become 10 times more crazier. I would think that would be great lore connecting. However, they had to go with the same trope from the last movie and from BVS, and it's like maybe they could have changed that, but still, it was an awesome scene nonetheless. Superman is cool in this movie, and there's faint traces of him being hopeful and optimistic, which is what old school Superman fans will appreciate here. Thankfully, no cringe with those decent accommodations. No, you're killing Martha! Or Superman being dark and breaking Zod's fucking neck just like a toothpick. I think Superman was done well, even though, once again, of course, because he appears somewhere near the end of the movie, he's not really more refined like the other characters that I mentioned earlier, aka Flash and Cyborg. But I can understand that Superman was dead for a long time, so I can let that slide. I can understand that, yes, him being gone was a big void of the movie that they needed to fill, and thus, in order to carry on the story, they needed to try to revive him later on, and they did. His absence is not really too bad, to be honest, once you take everything into context. Overall, I just want to say, Snyder Cut, what would I give it as a score? It is leagues above the Whedon Cut, no pun intended. However, this is not the mecca of comic book movies. I feel like this is the best DC team up movie that they have for live action. However, it is not the best comic book movie ever, in my opinion. Some people are saying, oh well, the scene with the Joker and the Batman at the end, that scene was better than all the scenes in Batman history. It was better than the Dark Knight interrogation scene on Twitter. And I'm like, no. After seeing this cut, no, I don't agree that this scene in particular is better than the one that was done in the Dark Knight. I feel like there's a lot of recency bias, and there's a lot of Snyder fandom going about and saying, well, this is better than this, that, and the third. Honestly, I would give this movie a letter grade of a B. I have my criticisms with it. I feel like there were scenes that were overbloated. I felt like there were scenes that didn't add anything. I also felt like there were scenes that added things to the mix, like the backstories of the main characters, even though I feel like Aquaman was shafted in this movie. And still, you're just watching an expansion pack of the last movie as well. So in terms of anything super fresh and super original that changes the entire film from start to finish, like an entirely different movie, it feels like this is an expansion pack to the last movie, just with new stuff peppered in along the way. It's still definitely the Justice League that they filmed in 2017, just better, cleaned up, and extended, for better or worse. And that's how I feel right now, for better or worse. It's not perfect in my opinion compared to some movies where it's like they had an immaculate runtime of 2 hours and it still came across good in a sense, if not better. Like, I'm going to tell you the truth here, I really don't want to sound like I'm truly shitting on this movie, because I'm really not. There's just a few lingering nitpicks and a few lingering criticisms that drag on the heels of this movie that keeps it from being destined to greatness. This movie tries to reach for that coveted A+ from me, and it just didn't grab it. Another good reason is Darkseid. Despite all the good this movie does, it failed in that department, and it gave me blue balls, because Darkseid was hyped up to be this prophetic, amazing villain in the marketing, and all of a sudden they really only show him 3 distinct times in the movie before casting him away before an inevitable restore the Snyderverse sequel. And I really didn't like that at all. I felt like if they were expanding things and adding in terms of addition, then why not expand on Darkseid a little bit more than to basically copy and paste him and put him over Steppenwolf in the grand battle that they had in the past where the gods are fighting him, everyone's fighting him. He gets defeated by an axe to the shoulder, and that's it. He's decommissioned. Then he sits in the background with his finger over his chin, and then all of a sudden you don't get much of him except for the fact that they are alluding to the anti-life being present on Earth and that Darkseid still wants to accomplish his goal. That's it. I felt like they could have expanded that a little bit more to have the two antagonists, while they are great, still become a menace throughout time. Maybe even in the final battle, as soon as Steppenwolf is defeated, they could have had a little quarrel of Darkseid and Superman fighting or some shit like that. Ultimately, the character is sequel bait, and he obviously relies on the fact of Restore the Snyderverse actually happening or not. If it does not happen, then Darkseid will remain non-canon. I can honestly say the same thing about Martian Manhunter as well. It's like adding these cool additions and not really committing to it in this particular cut in terms of characterization and fleshing it out. And you have 4 hours, that's enough time to do it. Either way, I guess if you want some prominent Darkseid tyranny in your blood, then I could do you a solid favor and recommend Justice League War or Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. 2 movies where you kind of get more of what you're asking for the alternate villain. I also guess I can say real quick, I did like the fact that Deathstroke found out that Batman was Bruce Wayne. It finally sort of culminates into them wanting to create this whole beef with Deathstroke and Batman, and he has that information. He wants to go and destroy Batman or assassinate him or whatever, and I'm also pretty pissed that did not happen, because that was the original vision of the Batman. It was going to be Bruce Wayne, Batfleck versus Deathstroke, the guy in Spider-Man 1, Flash Thompson, Raimi Spider-Man. I wouldn't want to fight me neither. That guy, he was gonna fucking fight Batfleck, and that didn't happen. So that's an idea. That's a loaf on the Warner Brothers side of things for not making that happen. I'm sure Pattinson Batman will do a good job, but that's just another window, another glimpse of what could have been that did not happen also. Do I believe in restoring the Snyderverse? Yes, I believe Zack really needed a second chance, because once again, he has proven that this movie is leagues better than what corporate wanted with the original Whedon cut. I just hope that he does not go overboard with his ideas, because there is a thing called scaling things back, being way too ambitious, and ultimately that can cost you at the end of the day if you're not too careful. This is Renegade Operative signing out. Like I said, Zack Snyder's Justice League gets a B out of me in terms of a letter grade. It's not bad at all. It's pretty good. It's just not the best it could be, but this is a step in the right direction. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed my review of Snyder Cut. Like I said, extended scenes, man, I really enjoyed some of that shit that they were adding, and then there was some that was just like, what? But yeah, this is my overall review. What did you think of it? Comment below, let me know. Tell me what you thought about Zack Snyder's Justice League in the comments. How did you feel sitting through all that 4 hours? Let me know, fam, what you thought, and I will get back to you guys next time. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you guys soon. Later.